when I started the film, it was I took a trip. I live in Athens, Georgia, in the South, and I went to Arkansas. And on the way there, I was like, oh, maybe I'll go see some like civil rights related things. So I went to Selma, and I went to Birmingham, and this is like hours from my house. So and I went there to kind of see, what to me, I think initially why I wanted to see it is because I, as a Japanese American person studying the incarceration, I had kind of stratified tragedy and injustice. Like I put the Holocaust at the top always because they were death camps, and then this was my approach initially, which is really, it confused me. It took me a while to process, Holocaust at the top, and then various other Armenian genocide, and then or slavery, and like all these things were just kind of intermixed. But there was a hierarchy, and I had real problem like processing, like how could you concentrate on something that's what I considered a lower level injustice, hardly an atrocity, by definition. And what I realized early on is that, or concluded, is that like there's no end to what awful things human beings will do to each other, up until now. And if you compare things like that, it's just like there's no end to how much you could debilitate yourself by feeling bad about history. And I think you have to choose everything and treat it as equally important things that have complete relevance. If you can bring that relevance to a contemporary consciousness, that is equally as important as just empathizing with specific tragedies throughout history. And one of the things that really struck me, because we were talking about incarceration, is there was a lot of talk of mass incarceration was something that was really starting to be on the cusp of the general consciousness, I think. And when I went to Selma, I went to the slavery. There's a very small slavery museum there. And I was talking to civil rights activist Annie Pearl, and she was talking to me about convict leasing. And this is something I didn't know anything about. Convict leasing, if you want to know, is basically right after the Civil War, right, Reconstruction, the Union came in and made sure that they stopped slavery for about a decade as the South rebuilt. And at that time, African Americans, newly freed African Americans, would actually hold office. Were actually able to vote, hold office, become mayors, be in juries, run cities. And then as soon as the Union left 10 years after, the South just went back to its own ways. And ultimately, what happened was they converted the prison system into this kind of like de facto slavery in a way. So they would just basically, the foreman would come and just like round up. He needed workers, so they'd go round up people for really small things like vagrancy, to make up stuff, and then put them back onto the fields or mines, and like coal mines. And so it was like this really awful way of criminalizing an entire population, and not just like in the legal system, but in the minds of white people. So white people who had actually, made, for the most part after slavery, just after the Civil War, might have like supported the emancipation, within a generation would just see them as criminals because they were in the penal system. And to me, that was like the most painful realization, is that you had this hope of freedom, but yet just kind of almost back to where you started again. Because in the consciousness of the people who gave you that freedom, you were now criminals. And this has trickled down and continued into, through the 80s, and of course we're in the George Herbert Walker Bush, or the 80s were a big part of mass incarceration. Bill Clinton was also a big part of mass incarceration. Really, really ramping up this massive prison system we have today. So, convict leasing. This is a song I wrote about convict leasing, and this is about missing somebody very, very much, of a guy in a coal mine. So, it's called Angeline. Underneath the cotton sun, freedom we had just begun, sweeter than the finest rum, with my Angeline. Home to every kind of tree, built it without anything. Life is like a peach and cream, with my Angeline. come to find prison folk to work the mine. The judge was there to give me time away from my Angeline. Angeline, oh Angeline, she's the sweetest song I could ever sing. Sweet summer rain, I just want to be able to see her again. 7 years until I'm free, working off this prison fee. My fingers smell like kerosene in a mine in Tennessee. Every day I hold my breath, every hour I wish for death. Angeline, she's settled west, away from Tennessee. Tennessee, oh Tennessee, how the darkest fades that I haven't seen. Deep in mine, Angeline, your memories won't let me die.